now that I've moved the miter saw to the other side of the shop, what I want to do is move the table saw out of the middle of the shop and put it over towards this wall over here. But currently, there's this thing sitting here. The idea here was to have the grinder up here and standing up like that. The miter saw was right beside it, so any longer pieces go through on this surface right here. And then if I need the grinder, which is seldom actually, I could just tip it down like that and use it. One problem is there's not a lot of space between here and the table saw, so I was always pinched in like that. The other thing is that actually makes it so that I don't use this as often as I really should. If I've got some metal grinding to do, I'm not going to bother tilting this down. Even though it doesn't sound like a lot of work, I'll turn on my small strip sander here and do it on that and ruin the belt on that. You know, this one's better for metal grinding because it goes faster. So what I want to do with this thing is I want to take it off of this stand because I'm getting rid of the stand. I'm going to move the planer to one of the bays inside the miter saw station, so that tucks away in there neatly on a cart this time, not on the sliding drawer. The sliding drawer was another good idea, except it's in practice a little bit inconvenient as well. It mainly has to do with the amount of space that I have here. There's not enough space between this and the table saw. It'd be a different thing if my shop was wider. So miter saw over there, table saw over here, clear space in between the two, so I have lots of space between the two to pull things out and use them when I need to. I gotta be honest, it's been months since I've used this thing. I don't even know if it still works. I guess I should try it and see if it does. Man, there's a lot of dust down here. What I want to do with this is I want to take it off of the stand, yes, but I want to make a change to it as well. Right now the motor is right underneath here and it makes the unit wide. I want to mount the motor underneath and I want to make a narrow stand for it so that it can, you know, tuck away in a neat corner and not take up a lot of space this way. As you can see, I painted this and I would recommend painting it, but there's one area where you shouldn't put any paint, and that's the boom arm that slips in here. I have had nothing but problems since I painted it to get this to slide in and out. It's just too sticky. The paint, even though it's been dried for years, it's still too sticky. And this boom arm really doesn't want to move in and out smoothly at all. As a matter of fact, right now it's stuck in one position and I've got to get the mallet to try to get it to move. So there you go. So what I'm going to do, the hard thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to scrape it off and then sand it down. The important thing to remember when I'm doing this is that it can't fit in there too loosely. It has to pinch together when I tighten this bolt in here, so that it keeps it from moving back and forth. Okay, I take these two wing nuts off and then I should be able to get the belt guard on. Another thing that, you know, I didn't expect was, well, I kind of expected it, but I wasn't sure, was that I've never changed the speed on this. I've ran this at the maximum on these step pulleys since day one. So I think that I'm gonna swap this motor for one that runs faster, a 3450. Okay, well, basically, it only has to be as wide as the drive pulley and the drive wheel. So I can cut the base shorter, or actually I have to cut the base all the way off, or maybe notch it like this so that the belt can come up and loop around that. Anyway, it is the next day. I finished up yesterday by hunting through the shed until I found this buried under a bunch of crap. This is the motor that came with this saw when I originally bought it. You can compare the two. This one's that size and this one's this size. I don't think I'll have a problem running the machine with this. The other thing about it is that it can be reversed, whereas this one can't. So if I want to put the motor in like this, it's going to be turning the wrong way, and I can't reverse this motor. I want it to run a little bit faster than it is right now. So this motor turns at 3,500 RPM. The arrangement I had is here before was I was driving the 5-inch pulley to the 3-inch pulley, and that was giving me a belt speed of around 3,800 feet per minute. So if I put this motor on and I go a 1-to-1 belt pulley arrangement with 2 3-inch pulleys, which I have, the new belt speed will be around 4,600 feet per minute, which is considerably faster. So I temporarily wired up the motor just to check the direction it was turning in, and I had to reverse it, which is easy enough to do. You just change around the wiring on this. I've got the shaft here, and it's pretty rusty. I'm going to have to get rid of the rust before I can put the pulley on. I'm just going to do that by turning the motor on and rubbing the rust off with this piece of sandpaper. Okay, that looks clean enough. You definitely don't want to overdo it here. The pulley needs to slide on there smoothly without any play, and if you take too much of the metal away, it'll be sloppy. But this feels good. The other thing is I've got a keyway in this shaft. There's a keyway in this pulley, but I don't have any key material. So I could make some stuff, but I think what I'll do for this is just take the set screw and put it down inside the keyway. I changed my mind. I'm not going to use the original set screw after all. Not comfortable with how short it is, actually. So I made a custom one here, and this is a dogging set screw. It has a part on the end here that I just ground down on the strip sander, although I could have used a file too. And that'll fit right into the keyway. I also had to grind down the head of the screw a little bit to clear the edge of the pulley. Probably be a couple of comments on the extra weight of the head of the screw. That has absolutely no effect, or a negligible effect, on the balance of the thing. Turn it on and show you how smooth it's still running. No vibration. I want to clamp it from the table too. Let's see. It's not walking out of here. I think what I'll do is I'll do basically the same thing as I did there. Cut a screw to fit in there, but I'll drill a hole inside this shaft for the screw to fit down inside. I use the set screw in the pulley to mark the shaft where I have to drill the hole. Now I'm going to take a file and make a flat spot so I'll be able to drill in a bit easier. Now I'm not going to go all the way through the shaft. I'm only going to go in about a 1/4 inch. You might be wondering, okay, well, you know, what are you going to do with your pulleys? You know, you're not going to use them on there. Well, I got a lathe project coming up, and I'm going to use them on there. Ideally, the motor would be directly below this and not hang down too far, but I would really like to reuse this belt for it. So it looks like it's going to have to be a little bit lower. I figure the easiest way to do this is to put the thing on its side. That way I can get a fairly accurate measurement for the height. So probably better if I make the whole thing like a solid box that will sit on the floor, have adjustable feet and whatnot. But I'll be able to put stuff in the bottom as ballast, mainly maybe a bag of cement or something like that, a bag of sand, just to keep it so that it's more bottom heavy than top heavy, and keep it from maybe possibly tipping over or vibrating all over the place. Before I attach the other side, I'm going to reinforce this corner here with this scrap of 3/4 inch plywood. It's got glue on it already. I'll stick it in here and then drive in some brads to hold it in there. Okay, I got some glue on the shelf. This goes in the same way, or it gets fastened the same way as all the rest. As you can see, the sides bow out quite a bit, and the nails are not pulling it in tight enough, so I'm going to put in a couple screws, one on each side, to pull them in tight. All right, for the bottom shelf, I'm just going to use this second offcut. I used the first one up here and put it down inside here. It doesn't have to be a full shelf, mainly because I'm not going to be storing anything in here other than, say, a bag of sand or something heavy. Okay, 2 more cleats to put in. This one right here supports this edge of the shelf and also bridges from side to side. Put that in. I've already got some glue on it. And I'll drive in some brads. So next day again, I have the motor taken out, and I've made the mounting plate for it from 3/4 inch plywood. I marked out the holes where the bolts will go to attach it to the motor, and I drilled those out by hand. No need of doing that on the drill press. And I'm just tightening up the bolts now. I got nuts on the inside here. Screws are not very long, but they don't have to be. They just need to hold it on there, and there are 4 of them, so that'll work. I also added hinges to the back here. I just screwed those right onto the end with 3/4 inch screws. And now that this is done, I can bring it down and put it inside the cabinet and screw the hinges down to that shelf. Okay, this has to go like almost all the way in, so the back of the motor is pretty much up against the side panel there. And this is a completely enclosed fan-cooled motor, and the fan is back here, and this grill needs air to pull through to blow over the motor housing so it won't overheat. Really won't be a big problem for this because this will be used intermittently, but I'm going to drill a series of holes in the side panel that line up with this grill, and then the air can draw right in. A 1/2 inch spade bit here. I'm going to drill halfway through from this side, then I'm going to finish it on the other side. That way I don't get tear out on the other side. One thing I had to do, I tried this after to see how long the belt was and all that, and it turns out my shelf is a little bit low, which is better than being too high, then I have to move that. So I added this piece of solid wood, and the hinges screw right into that, and then I can just slip that in here, make sure the cord's out of the way, and then I can fasten that down. I'm actually going to glue that in place as well. So one thing I want to do is make sure that the cord doesn't get, doesn't interfere with the motor movement up and down as it tensions the belt. So I'm going to clamp it on up here, just using a piece of the cord that I cut off the insulation itself to act as a clamp. Now that I've got the motor put in, I can permanently attach the top. I'm going to get some glue on the edges of the plywood here, and then just nail it in place like I did with the rest of the box. I put the grinder back up on top here, put the belt on, and everything looks good except the belt is a bit too close to the edge here. I'm going to have to cut a little bit more off the base and cut open that hole a bit more too. Okay, it looks good. It's working well. Little grinding on there, it didn't bog down. You see the belt is wobbling back and forth like that. That's the belt itself. The belt is crooked. I don't know if leaving them tensioned up on the machine like that does it to it, because I don't think that this belt was crooked when I first put it on, but it certainly became that way over time. Anyway, before I go, I want to say that if you are interested in building this grinder, I have plans available. Very easy to make, actually. It looks complex, but the plans are so well laid out. It's all step by step. Take the materials, cut it into the parts, put it together. Every assembly step is covered. Really not much problem at all.